I'm gonna do a walk around of my truck that I've built here. I'm not completely done with it. There's a couple things that I need to do before it's on the road and really ready to go, but I figure it's majority done and it's running and driving, so I thought I'd do a quick walk around of this. So this is an 89 GMC V3500 1-ton crew cab long bed, obviously from 88 to 91. They did RVs for the square bodies and the bourbons, the blazers, and the crew cabs. So yeah, 89, and I did a 3-inch, well, I said it was a 3-inch, but 3-inch quote-unquote lift. That's kind of like a kit from ORD. They do 3-inch, I honestly think they're 4-inch, just the way they sit, but 3-inch springs in the front, and then Bilstein 52 or 5125s. I just kept the normal 4-wheel drive steering because this thing is built to be a tow rig, mainly tow rig and just kind of camping, stuff like that. Then I did it comes with a 2.5-inch shackle flip in the rear, and then the beef shackles. And then I did if you can see, I did a easy inch in the rear, just because I wanted to get it up a little bit more in the rear, so when I have a trailer behind it or something, or a bunch of weight in the bed, that it would not, squat and look weird. And then those are 285 75/16 BFGs on some 16x8 American Racing black rims. I got those NFAB steps. They're alright. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like the way they mount, to be honest with you. I really like the way they work, and they're functional, they look great, so whatever. But honestly, the mounting, if NFAB ever watches this, fix that. But other than that, not bad. The bumpers on the rear and the front are both from RLC Weld and Fab. I was gonna build some, but these actually are a fantastic price, and it was free shipping for both bumpers, which is crazy. And they look great. They're exactly what I was going for. Great price. So I said, well, that's great, I'll just buy those. They have the little cutouts for the flush mount LED lights. I'll get some of those for the rear. So obviously the axles are what came stock in these. So 14 bolt in the rear, 10 to 60 in the front, with 410 gears. The paint is a rattle can. That's me doing my own duplicolor royal blue rattle can paint job. I did a lot of prep work. I sanded it a lot. I bought this self-itching primer in a can to try and, cover up as much of the imperfections, I guess you'd say, when I did the final paint. And to be honest with you, I think it turned out great. I mean, I know paint guys get a little crazy with their paint. And they just can't help themselves and say that paint in a can sucks. But I was very impressed with this paint. I think it turned out great. It's exactly what I wanted. Alright, so interior, I kept it mainly stock. I did clean it up a lot. I did a new headliner, and then I did a LED light there. Actually, all the trim pieces, when I first bought this thing, they were all white, and I hated that, so I bought some trim paint from LMC and painted all the trim throughout everything in here, and I think it looked great. I think it looks awesome now. And then I bought this little dash cover. It's actually a cover that goes over the top. It's like a molded plastic cover from LMC. I think it looks great. It doesn't rattle, doesn't nothing. It looks awesome. So that was pretty cool. So when I first bought this truck, it was a TBI 350, to a Turbo 400 automatic, and then an MP205, obviously. So I did a lot of decisioning on what I wanted to do as far as drivetrain goes and everything like that, and I decided on an 8.1 liter. It's a 2005 8.1 liter. When I bought it, it had roughly 110,000 miles on it. And you know, to do these swaps is actually pretty darn simple into a square body. So as far as motor mounts go, I actually just used DIY 4x's competition poly motor mounts, but you can use the stock motor mounts. Stock, like what was in the square body. The 8.1 has bosses that you can bolt up a you know, stock motor mount that was in a square body, or the LS style, so it's actually kind of cool. My exhaust, those are headers off of just a mid-80s big block Chevy truck, 454. They bolt right up to an 8.1 liter, and I kind of, just for my own sake, I notched the frame just a tiny bit, just to make them clear just a little bit more. It was more just like a shave down. They actually fit without doing that, but that was just for my own benefit when I was there. And then obviously if you run headers on a either 5.3, 6.0, whatever the case is, you need to get these wires, is spark plug wires, or if not, your regular ones will touch the headers and burn up and stuff like that. But as far as the cooling system goes, it's actually a radiator that's out of a 6.2 diesel square body Chevy truck, and they are a lot longer than the normal. You might be able to see it over here. A lot longer than a normal, you know, more like a big block style, a lot bigger to keep this thing cool. And that's also a shroud that's off of the same truck, and you can see that the shroud's kind of offset for the fan, and that's just a stock mechanical fan clutch and everything for the 8.1. So and as the radiator hoses, I just went and got those kind of universal mold ones from AutoZone, just cheap, and bolted right up. Wiring isn't completely done yet. I kind of have a mess of wires over here that I have some mounts coming that I'm going to mount the computer and all that type of stuff to kind of clean it up a little bit. Fuel system. So what I did is, obviously this was a TBI truck, so it had TBI dual saddle tanks. So I have this driver tank as the main tank that runs the motor. So in the tank, I used the stock Chevy TBI tank and TBI sending unit, and then I used a EP381 fuel pump. So it's the pumps that were off like the late 90s Tahoes, like 97-ish Tahoes. So they fit inside the hanger of a TBI fuel pump hanger, but they put out the required, you know, Vortex pressure, the roughly 60 psi that you need to run Vortex. And then what I ended up doing was I did end up kind of making my own line, so I converted the fuel lines to -6 AN fittings and lines that run all the way up. In fact, these aren't completely done yet, but you might be able to see. So the lines, I just ran them on the outside here, and there's my little filter that goes all the way up. And even though this is a 2005 8.1, I swapped on a 2001 to 2003 fuel rail, because those are the return style fuel rails instead of a return-less style. I just felt like it was easier. Plus I had it sitting around, so it made it a lot easier to do my fuel lines. So that was fueling. So fueling was done. I'm running the stock drive-by-wire setup, and I just mounted the drive-by-wire pedal in there. I kind of had to get fancy with it. I did end up kind of cutting the pedal. I did have to drill one hole in the firewall to bolt it up. It's held on with 2 bolts. And I did kind of cut off the arm and start beating it and molding it to where I wanted, and then welded it back together. So that way it actually, you know, was in a good location, which it's very comfortable now. Like I said, this was originally a auto truck, so I sourced some hydro pedals and then just swapped them in. By the way, the pedal swap is really sucks. It was not fun to do, but whatever. Had to take the whole steering column out and everything. Okay, so bolted up to the 8.1, as you probably saw, is a V3500 5-speed. That's a GM version, obviously. So this is a 95 V3500. So it is, it was kind of the hybrid year. It's got the same gear ratio as the 96 and up versions, but it has the earlier version of the 90, whatever it was, 92 to 95 external bell housing, external slave bell housing. So I just ran that. I'm running the stock bell housing, the stock slave cylinder, everything like that for the 95. And as you can see, I don't know how many times I read on forum sites and everything that everybody said, you can't do that because the drive shaft gets in the way when you're doing a passenger drop T case, which, go suck it. Of course it works. Even when this thing was at stock height, it cleared. And now I have, roughly 4 inches, and it clears by a mile, especially for what I'm going to use this truck for, which is mainly towing and, some hunting roads and stuff like that. So, and then what I did is I ran the hydro line from the 95 up, and then obviously I have my excuse all the wires, I'm sorry, I haven't cleaned this up yet, but the master cylinder is bolted to the firewall there, and then if you can see that right there, that little adapter is a swag lock adapter. It's kind of like a compression fitting. It was $5, and I adapted the 95 hydro line to the 89 hydro line that comes out of the master, and that's it. I just pretty much bolted the 2 lines together with that adapter, bled the clutch, and doesn't leak. Feels great. So that worked out awesome. It was really cheap too. So this thing obviously came with a 205 factory, and it's the round pattern, the 6-bolt round pattern, long 32 spline input 205. So what I did to bolt the back of the V3500 is that's a advanced adapters, I guess more like just like a spacer. That's all that it is. It just makes it so that the long input of the 205 does not bottom out on the shaft of the output of the V3500. Pretty nice piece. It really wasn't that expensive, to be honest with you. I mean, it kind of is, but the alternative with using this T-case is to swap out the inputs to a short 32 spline input 205. And honestly, with the teardown and then, purchasing the input and then probably a reseal and bearing kit and everything, it was about the same amount of money than just buying the AA kit. So that's why I did that. And then, let's see if I can get a good angle. So I bought the shift bracket from Advanced Adapters as well for the TK shifter, so that you can keep the stock TK shifter in the stock location. So I think it's alright, but I ended up bracing it, which I don't know if you can see kind of that little brace right there. I ended up kind of building and welding on an additional brace right there, and as soon as I did that, it's great now. It's really, really firm. It works awesome. And then I did have to get a little adjustable shift linkage to go from the shifter to the actual T-case, and I got that from JB Fab. I just called him up and said, hey, I need something, and he had that, and he was cheap, and he was awesome, so I ended up getting that. But other than that, what's awesome about MV4500 when replacing a 205 is that I used the stock crossmember from the Turbo 400, and it bolted up in the exact same location and everything. Still use the same exact tranny mount, if you can see it in there. That was for either an MV3500 or a Turbo 400. I mean, it was about as easy peasy as it gets to swap to an MV4500 in this. And then you can see the drive shaft down. This is the stock drive shaft that was in the thing. Didn't even have to modify that. I did have to lengthen the front when I lifted it, but other than that, stock drive shafts would have fit. Exhaust from all the way out. It's kind of hanging down a little bit low. I ended up doing the whole exhaust myself, and I think it's alright for a tow rig, but whatever. So my headers are 3-inch collectors, and they so it's 3-inch, you know, all the way to right here to this Y pipe, and the Y pipe converts to 3.5. So then it's a single 3.5 to a 40 series Flowmaster, and then it's 3.5 inch all the way out to this 4.5 inch tip. And I think it looks good, sounds good. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. But like I said, I'm not done with this. I mean, I'm never really done with these trucks. There's always something to do on them, but I guess I can start it up so you can hear it. At idle, it's got a really nice low rumble to it. When I get on it, it's pretty loud, but I kind of like that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, there's quite a few people doing these 8-1 swaps into these things now. They're pretty freaking easy too, to be honest with you. It might even be a little bit easier than regular LS 5.3 or 6.0s, just because no conversion motor mounts, no nothing. But if anybody has any questions, you can comment below and I'll try and answer. But that's my truck.